E aí, Milton, tranquilo? Preparado para a maratona?
Estamos aguardando, apesar do frio muito intenso. Saímos do Brasil com 30 graus, né? Chegamos com 2 graus aqui em Nova Iorque. Mas a expectativa é boa, ver se a gente faz uma boa prova, né?
Vai dar para baixar as 3, né?
É, eu tenho expectativa, meu melhor tempo é 3:02. Eu estou tentando 2:59, aí já é lucro, né? Vamos ver.
Vamos arrebentar domingo então.
Vamos ver.
Tá bom?
Ok.
Boa sorte.
Obrigado.
Venezuela, Venezuela, Costa Rica, South Africa, New Zealand, how about Australia, Ireland, please move across the field in the back. That are represented here. We would like to hear your applause and appreciation for all of the different groups. First, let's start with a welcome to all the English-speaking runners. We're glad you are here and wish you a wonderful race tomorrow. Konghai na Queen, Sidai Ma Jak Muang Thai, Sawadi Kap. Marafonskia, Bazuni, Dabro, Kosovac, de New York. Shalom Latsei, Maratona, Israel. Serdecznie witamy wszystkich polskich biegaczy. Ett varmt välkommen till alla skandinaviska deltagare i New York Marathon. Bienvenidos a todos los brasileños y portugueses corredores. Bienvenidos a todos los corredores de habla hispana del Maratón de Nueva York.
In this world, there's about 1 billion people who don't have drinking water. You wouldn't be able to run without drinking water. Around the world, there are lots of places where you can't run because you don't know whether you're stepping on a landmine next step you take. You can say a lot about New York, but you won't be stepping on landmines. You'll be getting a lot of support from all the people of New York. And I wish you could translate all that support that will be surrounding you to support for this great organization. It's wonderful to see you here. Good luck tomorrow.
Now to greet you, here is Ambassador Alex Rain, Permanent Representative of Belgium to the United Nations. Il y a 114 couvreurs de la Belgique. Ambassador Rain.
Bienvenue au Belge. Welcome for the Belgians. I wish everybody good luck and a good race tomorrow. And again, a good run for peace. Thank you.
Also to greet you,
York City Marathon, the excitement of the start, the emotion of the finish. But there's more to this annual event than 26.2 miles through 5 boroughs.
Mostra o show, mostra o número. Manda teu bloco que eu tô gelado, garoto.
Vamos lá, tá muito frio.
Está muito frio mesmo.
Que fosse fazer tanto frio aqui, 1 grau, negativo.
Tá demais. Deve estar em torno de 0 graus.
Muito calor, tá 0 graus isso aqui, meu amigo. Não esperava entrar numa fria dessa.
Tá muito frio, deve estar uns 0 graus aí.
Tranquilo, mas duro de frio.
Tira a mão do ouvido, rapaz.
Não aguento, rapaz.
Boa corrida pra você, hein?
Obrigado.
Tchau.
Hello, my friend Brazil.
Vocês podem ver o
Milton,
tempo aqui
muito
na
frio,
Travas.
Milton.
Tá demais. Deve estar em torno de 0 graus. É a minha primeira experiência aqui em Nova York e já estou sentindo muito frio.
Não deu sorte, né?
Vamos ver.
Mas vai arrebentar na prova, vai
Mas
melhorar.
maratonista é assim mesmo. tem que
Recadinho
aprender
pessoal
a
de casa.
eu dedico o meu desempenho à minha família, que tem me apoiado muito, né? E o sacrifício todo que a gente tem feito vai compensar, se Deus quiser. A experiência está sendo muito válida.
Tá falado.
Tá ok.
Boa sorte, hein?
Obrigado.
Tchau.
Assisti Pernambuco, a festa do Cleio do Maracatu. Brasil! Brasil! O seu destaque.
Rio de Janeiro!
A arte da beleza, arquitetura.
Agora fica a personalidade aqui na Maratona de Nova York. E aí, é mais uma, né? Você correu ano passado também, né?
Corri o ano passado e penso em correr outras maratonas. E tô aí, tá bom, tá muito frio em Nova York, mas é bom correr em Nova York.
E pro Brasil lá, o que você tem a dizer aí?
Olha,
Aquele povão.
Eu tenho a dizer ao Brasil que a gente vai enfrentando desafios. E é bom enfrentar desafios que a gente cresce tanto no plano espiritual, quanto no plano físico, no plano moral. Enfrentar desafio é uma forma de crescer. Eu estou aqui enfrentando desafio. Se vou chegar, eu não sei, mas vou tentar.
É isso aí. Boa sorte, boa corrida pra você.
Obrigado.
Tá bom?
Moving downward. We are 11 minutes and just a little change away from the start of the race. Paramount Silva from a small little village in Mexico. He brings with him, well, a victory, but also a legacy of going right when he should have gone straight.
In the New York City Marathon, runners will make a number of turns as the course winds its way through the 5 boroughs. Last year, Herman Silva almost made one turn too many on his way to a bizarre and stirring victory that punctuated the 25th anniversary of this great race. So it's going to take a lot of savvy for the runners to get through that first part of the race.
Not everyone has layered their legs. Getting really close now. 6:24 and counting to the start of the 26th New York City Marathon. As you watch ongoing coverage on WB11, we're live. The mayor is taking his position near the cannon that will begin this running of the New York City Marathon. Hang on, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan. Hang on, gang. It's going to be wild as you make the crossing of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And standing by out there with some final thoughts before he climbs onto the motorcycle, the one-time All-American at Harvard and the Olympic Trials marathon race director back in 1984, Tim McClelland, here today. And look at that Japanese flag. Of course, it's on his head, but you can tell the wind is really whipping.
But you know, it's whipping from, and usually it's a pretty slow one because
27.9 was the number that we were looking at today.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Where are you walking? Now you hear somebody saying 1 minute. You don't want to do that because people start moving forward. If he's saying 1 minute, it might be only 30 seconds because you want to catch people by surprise so they don't start moving forward. There's a little bit of space left between the elite runners' mile, and usually it's a pretty slow one because
from near Fort Wadsworth, how appropriate. And the 26th running of the New York City Marathon is underway.
We have a great shot. The runners that are closest to the bottom of the screen do not have that wide roadway. So you really, if you're comparing your time to someone else in the race, a brother or sister that's running, it's really going to depend on which level you started at, because some of the runners on the lower level are probably going to gain 2 or 3 minutes on leaving the starting line with this much clothing. A lot of people leaving their sweatpants on. Of course, not the elite runners. You know, this is not a bad temperature for them. Rob Di Costella, the great Australian marathoner, told me once that every time he set a personal best.
Bastante, mas muito mesmo, mas dá para levar. Deus quiser.
You and I are about to have a pretty big problem because many of the runners have jackets over their starting numbers, which means as they go to the front of the pack, we will not be able to identify many of them until they remove the jackets. And I think I see Batman in there somewhere.
An awful lot of people with hats also. Maybe on a normal year, 10% of the people wear hats. Today it looks like more.
Against anticipation and nervous energy that they're dealing with. It's another one of those traffic jams in New York.
Somebody's got a pizza that is not going to get up there with you. Well, right now, Olga Appel is in the lead for the women. We did not mention her in our ranked #1 in the world, but that was in the mile. That's an event that you can have success at a young age. The marathon
ribbon of runners that reaches clear across the 2-mile wide Verrazano Narrows Bridge. We're blessed with great sunshine and blue skies, but that wind, look at the whitecaps down below. 60 miles an hour gusts, they said. Hopefully everyone is hanging on. And we already have some leaders. On the men's side, it's a surprise. Number 58, look at the lead he has developed for himself. As Marty said, the exuberance of youth. 19-year-old Nazi Gwagwi from Tanzania, the current leader in the men.
Last year's winner, Herman Silva's technique is picture perfect. He stays relaxed from the waist up, and his foot plant is excellent. Whether it's a learned skill or it's genetics, the great runners have great form. Here's a few mistakes that the recreational runner makes. One thing is excessive up and down movement. A runner's head should look as if they're riding a bicycle. Too much arm swing. If you swing your arms too much, you're going to get tired. If they're too high, your neck is going to cramp, and if they're too low, then your stride length is going to be affected. You should move your hands just 6 inches around your hip bones. Foot plant is very important and what separates the great runners from the not so great runners. This is where the timing comes in. If you land too far back on your heels, your stride length will be too short. Too far up on your toes, and your calves will cramp up. You need to land flat-footed and roll forward. A runner's foot plant is crucial. It's like a tennis player or a golfer making contact with the ball. If your timing is off down there, it affects your whole body, and it affects your race.
Well, Nazi Gwagwi of Tanzania, again only 19 years old, has the right rhythm. He's got it working. The first 2 miles were run in 9. Back to the front of the men's race. Nazi Gwagwi, 19 from Tanzania. Marty, this is such a fun part of the city to watch the race. 4th Avenue in Brooklyn.
Clothing that can be just, discarded for the long distance. She's got oil on her legs and her face, so it looks like to me that she plans on sticking in the race.
Did I say overdressed or underdressed, Al?
I don't remember anymore.
If you have too much clothing on, you could run into heat problems. If you have too little on, you can run into cold problems. So it's a very challenging day. It's probably, for me, the Kenyan runner most likely to be at the front at the end of this race.
Field, Charles Tenga, Simon Karori, and Paul Yego. And to give you an idea how unpredictable this sport can be, there are 46 marathons so far this year, either primary or second level marathons. 46 different races. They were all won by 40.
Kagwe is an established marathoner, and he's right up there now, wearing number 20. The interesting thing, of course, is to look for Herman Silva in the pack, not on camera right now, which is
identical. We have one breakout runner with the defending champion in the second pack.
Well, maybe for different reasons. I could see Olga thinking to herself that Tegla LaRoupe has a little bit of a psychological, it's been going well, I've been depressed for days, but I think I can hang on. I'm at 18 miles, I'm still in the race. But if she has to run the first hour and a half of the race feeling like she's 300 yards behind the leader, it's a much easier thing to quit psychologically.
Crowds there in Greenpoint, Williamsburg, and then the Pulaski Bridge eventually, but that's a ways away. That'll bring them into the borough of Queens. He's in his 8th mile, Nazi Gwagwi. And
the conditions, it's a fine pace. It's not a
leading pace.
Not the leading pace. Nobody in that second pack is complaining. A lot easier to make a move like this and be a leader when the wind is at your back. If we were running into the wind, it'd be much easier for trees to find out when the wind is at their back, and then they'll make their jump. So he's been real successful because he's had the wind at his back, but I don't think he'll be as successful once they turn into a wind.
Well, the wind may have helped cause...
They be acclimated to this type of cool temperatures, and in most cases they will be because they're training at 10,000 feet or 13,000 feet. Silva, trying to see who else in that lead list trains with Silva in Mexico at 13,000.
He has a 33-second lead as he moves on in his 9th mile. Now we check over back to the women's story. It was Olga Appel with the big lead. Last we saw it, and there she is, still wearing the gloves, still wearing the long sleeves, still wearing the shades and the hat. She's in the 8th mile, and the current leader, the American, one time a Mexican, Olga Appel.
Well, she is not that far off course record, 8 miles of the race.
Well, these are some of the best marathoners in the world, and they are moving on through New York at a very good clip. However, some people like to move through New York. City Marathon continues, and somewhere out there, there's a runner from St. Lucia, and one from Senegal, one from Paraguay, 243 from Norway, 2 from Aruba, 60 from Argentina, 697 from Canada, and on it goes. Almost 2,000 from France. 27,900 runners overall, and 9,196 will run the marathon for the very first time. Marty, those first-time runners would have to be encouraged that, on the average, 95% of the people sneak on by. There's only an 80-yard differential now between Olga Appel and the defending champion. Last year, she made her move on First Avenue. It appears now that Appel is forcing her to keep the pace, and Catherine Switzer is out there on the motorcycle. Chef Chumba from Kenya, 25 years of age. Catherine, you've been to so many marathons. You've ridden the...
Win it, he can use all his intelligence to keep track of the paces, of the split times. Whereas if you're in the race and you're trying to win it, you're thinking about a lot of other things. You're thinking about, how am I carrying my arms? Am I loosened up? Are my legs feeling good? Which direction is the wind coming from? Is it hot? Do I need to try and maybe take a piece of clothing off? You got a lot of other things you're thinking about in the excitement, but this is one guy whose job it is to hear the split times from the side of the road or on his own watch and adjust the pace.
Again, he's a rabbit, just like at the dog track. He's supposed to make everybody go as fast as they can and not win the thing. However, when Paul Pilkington does it, you always have to think back to the one time in Los Angeles when, as the rabbit, he did win the race. Still about 25 or 26 runners in this pack, which is now the lead pack in the New York City Marathon. Tim McLoone, a definite change in the story.
She was 3rd in the World Championships at 10,000 meters. At those World Championships, Manuela Machado won the marathon, so many people would think that Machado is the best marathoner in the world. The only reason that you complete the favorites role for Atlanta and perhaps be declared the top marathoner in the world, Tegla, with a win here, would show some amazing consistency.
Ramos, it looked for a time as though, as they approached the Queensboro Bridge, he was headed in the wrong direction. But now, energized by First Avenue, as he's always said, he has burst forth, and it looks as though he's got a full city block.
Like he's running the 100 meters. A lot of arm carriage. He's got some big thighs and big calf muscles. I think when he gets into Central Park and he's got to go up hills, he's not going to be going as fast as he is now, which is the fastest mile on the course because it is downhill.
First one on the bridge, then at mile 15, heading up the Queensboro Bridge, and then you've got the Central Park Challenge. Andre Luis Ramos leading the New York City Marathon. And then in the pack with John Cagwe is Herman Silva, Mr. Wrong Turn Corrigan himself. Straight and true, heading straight to the Bronx. The marathon continues in a moment. Men left, women right. It is Machado, Manuela Machado of Portugal, still running with Tegla Larupe, who I believe has lost the headband but keeps on the gloves. Machado keeps, Marty, just the singlet and the shorts and nothing to the cold, nothing to prevent the cold. Let's go to Catherine.
Look, LaRupe, perfect form in the white, calm, looking like a little water skeeter, sort of like a butterfly. Machado in the yellow, much more powerful and driven, but both of them facing the wind very, very well. Ah, the gloves have just come off of LaRupe. Watch her some action now. She looked over at Machado. She's thrown off her gloves. I think something is going to be really going on now. But in the meantime, what a wonderful moment for women.
With you before because of your presence on the Queensboro Bridge, but give me the circumstances of Olga Appel withdrawing from the race.
Well, you know, I think it's a very, very smart thing for her to do. She knew the miracle wasn't going to happen today. She's got the Olympic trials in only 3 months' time. She didn't have a half-bad race in Berlin. Let it go at that. Get her.
Brings you to the presence of a woman like Manuela Machado of Portugal.
Al, can you hear me?
Yes, Catherine,
okay,
I can.
Look, I think this is very important. You see that Tegla Larupe has just thrown in a surge there on Machado. Did you see that?
Yes.
See, she's motoring quite a bit ahead. Machado is having to turn over.
Avenue, and in the 20th mile, so we've got 6 and change to go. They're on their way to the borough of the Bronx and eventually, of course, Central Park. Herman Silva still there. He's got his shades on, a white T-shirt, number 1. He's the defending champion.
But right now, after really 2 years of not running well, he's back with the best.
So it's a tight pack, and a Brazilian that looks like he's destined to be caught. And 2 of the best women in the world going stride for stride down First Avenue. The race is heating up. Andre Luis Ramos of Brazil, the leader. Number 1 is Herman Silva, the winner last year of the New York City Marathon, and an ongoing domination by the Mexicans, who bring with them a tremendous fear factor that most of the world can't match. The fear that in the volcanoes of Mexico, they're stronger than everyone else. 90 minutes southwest of Mexico City, Herman Silva runs up a volcano to above 13,000 feet, just to build strong legs and a strong heart, the type of heart that can win a marathon. Benjamin Paredes of Mexico looked as though he was handed the championship, but instead, the younger Herman Silva of Mexico will win it. And winning New York moved Silva to the fast lane.
I was happy because it changed in the way that now I am invited for many big competitions, and also here in my country I could do something for my people. For example, in my village I was invited for the governor, and he asked me, what do you need? I say, well, in an economic way I don't need. Now I am fine, but if you want to do something, put the electricity in my village.
A favorite training location for Mexican elite athletes and many others from around the world is the 5,000-acre Mexican National Park, the Desert of the Lions. Teammate Isaac Garcia sprints with Silva over the 2-mile hilly loop. Altitude training, which allows the body to perform more efficiently when returning to sea level, is now an acknowledged requirement. If you don't do it, you can't win.
I think it's one of the best places we have here in Mexico, because here you can train and you can work your muscles. Here we make muscles strong.
The elite Mexican runners often train together, and the result over the last few years has been international prominence.
This is the winner of 93.
Andres.
Hola. Andres.
That's Andres Espinosa. We told you they trained together. As for Silva, he claims to be fitter and faster than he was a year ago. And there have been no wrong turns in his preparation. It's been straight ahead back to New York.
I think I am doing a very good training, and I think every marathon is different, and just I would like to run also fast. I would like to break my best time, but I have confidence. You know, you always have to have confidence in yourself. So I believe that I can win again.
Part of Silva's weekly training preparation includes an overnight stay at a Spartan hut at 12,000 feet on the volcano. No electricity, no plumbing, just altitude, lots of altitude. Silva's a focused athlete who believes this kind of hard work could result in a fast time and perhaps another laurel wreath. And when the hills of Central Park challenge the leaders, Silva will remember the volcano, and those hills will feel like nothing compared to what he used to get there. Well, Yankee Stadium, the home of the New York Yankees, for now at least. And in talking about altitude, Marty, and coming from those volcanoes of Mexico, I think it deserves a quick explanation. Most people don't have a complete understanding of how the physiology of the body works as they go over the Madison Avenue Bridge, which I believe is still painted that light lavender color. Why does training at altitude make marathon runners perform better?
At high altitude, there's less oxygen in the air, so your body, to compensate, starts to produce more red blood cells. There are changes that occur on the cellular level. And when you come down to sea level, you have an abundance of oxygen-carrying red blood cells. It's not a coincidence that 3 winners of this race have trained up there. But I do think that part of it is, as you mentioned, the word Spartan. If you're at some place with no electricity, no water, no TV, no cable TV, just concentrating on the task ahead, you're going to run well, whether it's at sea level or high altitude. You put some of the best runners in the world to push each other, that's what's going to happen.
And now they've made their way from the Bronx. That was a quick visit, as it always is. The Willis Avenue Bridge, sometimes thought of as the wall for many marathoners. Not at all. Andre Luis Ramos has been really sort of disrespected by the entire pack ever since he took the lead. By keeping him 25 yards in front, they never let him get away, and they never overtook him. It's as if they said to him, look, we don't take you seriously. We will blow by you when we think it's appropriate. And as they move on to 5th Avenue and get ever closer to Central Park, Andre Luis Ramos, who led the entire way on 1st Avenue, has now been taken in.
Well, it's a tremendous group of marathoners that is still in that pack at this point. The one guy I've lost track of, I don't know if Tim can tell us, is Salvatore Garcia. There he is in the orange shorts and the headband. He's still in there, but 3 or 4 of the top Kenyans who we thought could win the race are still up there. 3 or 4 Mexicans besides Salvatore Garcia. Isaac Garcia is also training on that mountaintop and has been very impressive.
And that's our friend, the cheeky Brit, number 22, Paul Evans, who's been very cleverly staying behind this pack the whole way, out of all this jostling. Now, he described to me that he views the first half of a marathon as kind of like sleeping, and then he wakes up, and then he starts to get into a higher gear.
It's the look of that classic Roger Bannister picture when he broke the 4-minute mile so many years ago.
Boy, you were reading my mind. Isn't that the truth? And I've got to tell you something else. He's looked exactly like that the entire way. I think that's exactly how he looks when he runs. We've said many times in marathons, looks can be so deceiving. You see someone looking perfectly serene and calm, and before you know it, they've dropped out. Then you see someone who's struggling mightily, and yet they can go on to a win. And again, I've got to mention to you that Andre Luis Ramos is not giving up here. He's trailing this group, but he's right there. They're checking each other out.
We are heading towards, Tim, to a great finish. We have so many talented runners in this lead pack. Herman Silva of Mexico is in there. He's in the pack. In the 22nd mile, Lamek Aguda, Marty's been talking about him from Kenya. We're approaching 1 hour, 50 minutes into the race.
And don't forget Simon Lupeye, the wild card here, the 1 hour half marathoner trying his first marathon. He's right in the middle of this too, and they don't know what he can do.
We've never seen this many runners together at 22 miles, and we certainly never seen this many quality runners together at this point.
Along the course, please. And to load up last night, the runners consumed 6,000 pounds of pasta. That's a carbo load. And on it goes, with everybody having a different goal for the day. You know the story. Some people want to reach their personal best. Others just want to finish the darn thing. Maybe one day they wanted to get in shape. They ran a lap at high school and thought, yeah, I can do a mile. And then when they did that, they set a goal. These are educated people, 76 to college, and they are goal-oriented people. They do few things in their life without setting a goal. And once you start something, the goal being the marathon, not a bad idea. Tim McClune, there's been a little bit of attrition in the men's lead pack, has there not?
Well, yes, there has, but we're still at 10. They dropped Aguda and Ramos, but we've got 10 here. One of the problems they're having, because there's so many of them so late, is when they come to an aid station, they're still having problems getting their liquids. You never see this in a major marathon. We just went past 23 miles. I hope the audience and the live spectators here are enjoying this, because they'll probably never see this again.
Tim, it looks like Silva's getting ready to move the pace up a bit. He moved on the inside, shoved number 6, that's Simon Lupayette, out of the way, and it looks as though he wants to be in the front.
He's been riding the slipstream in the middle of this crowd up until this point. He's checking left, he's checking right, and look who's alongside, the Brit, Evans, who's also checking left and right. I'd have to say the two of them are sort of sizing up where we stand right now. And what Marty said earlier is very true about Silva. He said, over the last 300 meters, nobody beats me.
Well, one of the men who might have been able to beat him, Lamek Aguda, has dropped off the back of the pack. So Silva might feel pretty good about letting this go till late in the race. There's a Garcia in the orange shorts. He
two of them. And then it was Silva making the wrong turn. Paredes finishing second when he overtook him. And you're wondering, where's Paredes? Well, he's not racing this year. So it's Silva of Mexico.
Well, one of the things you should do if you want to run well here is train with Herman Silva, because this year his training partner, Isaac Garcia, who's been pushing him in workouts. I won't say he's been beating him in workouts, but he's been pushing him as far as you can push someone. Isaac Garcia, number 21, just in the second pack, second from the left on the screen, just next to Paul Evans.
Well, it was 12 men, Marty, about 5 minutes ago. Then Tim McClune told us it was 10. And now it looks...
And 2:11.50, which normally you wouldn't give him a chance in a race like New York where you're expected to run 2:09 or 2:08 to win, but because of the
only one who's wearing shades, and it's been bright and sunny since the start of this race. It is these 5 men obviously moving on through Central Park and heading toward the finish. Meanwhile, back in the women's race, well behind the men, Tegla Larupe has developed an even bigger lead. Catherine, we're told it's 90 seconds.
That's tremendous. I'm back here with Machado, and she's running very well herself. She's running a 2:28 pace, and she's doing it the hard way because she's absolutely by herself here. She was coming off the bridges and looking to go through the interchanges and the blocks and see Tegla up ahead of her, and she couldn't do it. And it's very, very, very discouraging. So she's just trying to keep her form here and to hang on to second place, which she seems to be doing very well. She's only taking one look over her shoulder to see if anybody's in sight, and nobody is in sight. So great race here for second so far for Manuela Machado from Portugal.
Marty, you remember last year at this point, Tegla Larupe had the lead. If she wasn't Larupe yet. 42 is William Koech of Kenya. Number 1 is Herman Silva, the defending champion, and the man from Great Britain, Paul Evans, at the age of 34, is part of this trio. Tim?
It's such an interesting story. Actually, you've got
basically had just under 400 meters to go. He was running 62 seconds. That's just over a 4-minute mile pace, so he can fly the last half mile.
Quick update. Let's take a look at some of the interesting runners in the men's division. By the time it got to Queens, this New York City Marathon, the group was down to 25 or 26, and then soon it was 12 with a wild card leader from Brazil. By the time the race emerged from the Bronx, it was 12 in the lead pack, then 10, then 6, then 5, then 3, and now 2. It is just 2. Paul Evans of Great Britain, at 34 years of age, facing the much younger Herman Silva, the defending champion, who, remember, does all that great volcano training. And they left William Koech of Kenya behind them about a minute ago. And here it is, Marty, the move of Silva that pressed Evans to keep up with him.
Silva started using his arms, got up on his toes, and pulled 7:47. Silva, however, if this goes down to the last, if this goes down to the last 30 yards, you got to look at the shorter guy, Silva, who's a little better coordinated to be able to accelerate and just, as they say in England, pip Evans at the tape. Evans has really is digging deep, losing his form, but once you get into an all-out sprint, no holds bar, you start to use different muscles, and Evans might still be able to have it. Garcia will get to full speed faster, but top speed for a taller guy might be faster still.
How great is this, though? Second year in a row, 2 men, shoulder to shoulder, emerging from Central Park and out to Central Park South. Now, Tim McClune, I want you to stay close by now, because Herman Silva is coming up close to where he made that fateful right turn a year ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere right now. I don't want to miss this.
And you know who's waiting and can't wait to see whether it's Silva again is Sergeant Gerard Rosado, who helped right his wrong ship last year.
Silva's putting down the pedal right now. He turned around, took one look at Evans, and he put it down. When he made...
On the right, Grand Army Plaza, and that gap in the road, which I think they have pretty well protected.
Evans is going to have to dig for everything.
Central Park South.
Well,
that's it. That's it right there. That's where he made the wrong turn last year. He's dead straight on now and not far. He's in 26 miles into this marathon. It's now not much longer for the finish line, and Herman Silva, who looks better than the rest of the field. Paul Evans, once finishing 7th in this race, looks to have second locked up.
Well, he's wondering about that. Evans has been checking over his shoulder now to see if he's got second locked up. I don't think he thinks, there he goes again. I don't think he thinks he can get Herman Silva. Silva has been able to pull away and is actually now resting, not using his arms as much, trying to maintain this lead. But he's got a little something in reserve if by any chance Paul Evans will were able to claw his way back up to Silva, Silva would have one more blast at the ready.
Well, they had that tremendous blast of wind from the start. This will not be a New York City Marathon record. Umanyikanga of Tanzania set it in 1989. It was 2:08:01. 2:09:28 and counting. The winning time last year for Silva was 2:11:21. So, Marty, he's got a good chance to better that time. Evans doing a fine job of staying with him. He's about 15 yards back. And this will be the best finish by Great Britain in a long time. I'm going to start checking the results of this race to see the last time anyone from Great Britain finished as high as second place.
Steve Jones won this race, and one of the reasons we thought Paul Evans could do well is he broke Steve Jones's British record in the half marathon by 50 seconds recently. And although it looks like he's just running on feel and intuition, I think Paul Evans is concentrating very hard now and trying to keep his form together and run as fast as he can.
Well, here he comes under the beautiful sunshine, the colors of fall surrounding him, the noise of the finish line in Central Park. He is, after all, no wrong way Corrigan. He is right way Silva, the first back-to-back winner in this event since Orlando Pizzolato, who now and today brings Italian tour groups with him. The cheers for Herman Silva, who looks to be a lock to win the 1995 New York City Marathon.
And it's not that much more of a margin than he won by last year. This will certainly be one of the closest New York marathons ever.
Last year was the closest to date, 4 seconds. And here he is, the marathon champion at 2:11 even. He does do slightly better by 21 seconds than his time last year. And what a great day for Paul Evans of Great Britain at the age of 34, finishing second to the man who defines state-of-the-art in this sport right now.
It's always amazing to me that anybody can come back against such tremendous odds and win this race twice in a row.
And the third place finisher was Koech of Kenya, number 42. Marty, last year after he won the race, he went back to his small village where they didn't even have electricity. And the government wanted to award Silva something. And they said, what do you want? And he said, well, would you electrify the country? And I guess as the other finishers come across, heading towards a repeat of Rogers and Weitz, we'll soon know. To this New York City Marathon, we're seeing two legends born perhaps here today in New York City. Now these people battling the cold, still wearing hats and long sleeves, but as they're on First Avenue, the sights and the sounds and the energy probably make you forget about whatever cold you're feeling at that point. And here's how we watch them come across the finish line in the men's division of the 1995 New York City Marathon. Herman Silva of Mexico bettering his mark of a year ago by 21 seconds. They began, so they performed up to the standard that they had developed prior to this race. Now, in the 25th mile, and leading by about 2 minutes over the second-place woman Machado, Tegla Lorupe is about to join Herman Silva as another back-to-back champion. And Marty, how strange it could be that two people from faraway lands come together in New York and can do what they've done, as dominating as they have been in consecutive years.
It's amazing, and both of them have had tough years. Herman Silva lost his father. Tegla lost her sister recently. Herman is expecting a child within the next couple of weeks. So,
as if driving in your neighborhood past a spot on the street where you had a close call once in your life, that he turned over his right shoulder to see the spot where he made the mistake a year ago. And if you had paused, just...
There's been a smile on the face of Lorupe for the last 4 miles, a beatific smile. As she comes through the crowd, everybody knows who she is. You were talking, Alan Marty, about the city that had more millions of people rooting for one young woman. There she is, a wave to the crowd, an acknowledgement as she turns this corner now on Central Park South with the last little slopey hill up toward the finish, and the grin breaks out. She knows she's got it. She's
a winner, or at least it looks that way on the women's side. Tegla Lorupe just passing the New York Athletic Club on Central Park South, heading away from those great hotels and apartment buildings. Statue of Christopher Columbus and Grand Army Plaza. She's well past the wrong turn spot. That's what it's always going to be known as for the rest of this race's history. She'll make the turn back into the park. A little bit of an uphill climb, some nice turns through the trees, and then slowly the noise will build and get louder and louder, and then to the loudest that she'll hear, and that's at the finish line.
It appears that she's slowing a little bit now over these last miles. She's relieved of the pressure of knowing somebody's right on her shoulder, and I think that the impact of what she's done may be starting to sink in. I think she's really going to collapse at the finish of the race, not so much from the physical, but from having to keep up a front, to having to keep herself together mentally for these last 2 weeks under the glare of doing interviews every day, leading up to the race, living in a hotel room. Certainly she's disposed of the world champion, Manuela Machado, the world champion in the marathon. So when people really after New York here, the focus will turn to race, but the people who have run in New York will probably not run another marathon until the Olympics. And you really have to think that this woman is definitely a medalist, possibly could win in Atlanta.
The final hill now, Tegla Lorupe. No one in this town knew who she was when last year's race began. Then more knew her story when last year's New York Marathon was over, and she won in her first ever of this distance. And now New York will know her even more. Tegla Lorupe of Kenya, the 22-year-old back-to-back champion of the 1995 New York City Marathon. And at only 4'11", maybe 5 feet, she barely is taller than the tape. And even less than the 85 pounds she normally is after running 26 miles, 385 yards at a time maybe a second or two slower than 2:28. 2:28.06, slower than her time of last year, 2:27.37, but it matters not. It was faster than everyone else here today. That's Alan Steinfeld, race chairman. And I think everyone who's involved in this race, Marty, has come to appreciate and like Tegla very, very much. And those are, as you predicted, the tears of joy as she recognizes mother, and for Tegla the sister. And they've come together, they've shared dinner, they've shared good times and bad times, and they win again back to back at the New York City Marathon. Well, you wonder if training on a volcano would help these people get to be a lot faster than they are, but they seem to be fairly satisfied with the pace they're running as the New York City Marathon continues its parade of color, energy, emotion down First Avenue. It was running in the volcano that helped someone like Mexico's Germán Silva win this race for a second consecutive. There are plenty of those in this New York City Marathon for those who run faster than anyone else, and we'll spell out the prize money. And there are time bonuses which were not achieved by our two champions today. The first place winner does receive $20,000 and a Jeep Grand Cherokee. We're back live in Manhattan as we continue our coverage on WB11 of the 26th running of the New York City Marathon. Once again, just to recap, we've had the same two winners of a year ago. They return and defend their championships with everyone in the field having their sights set on them. They're better than everyone else. Tegla Lorupe of Kenya and Germán Silva of Mexico.
Defending champion with a time of 2 hours and 11 minutes from Mexico, Germán Silva.
Congratulations. Give him the tray. Great. Once again, God bless you. Nice to see you again. There you go.
Very much. Over your head. Hold it up high. And the winner of the women's race, also defending champion,
take it back,
with a time of 2 hours, 28 minutes and 6 seconds, from Kenya, Tegla Lorupe.
Like those laurel wreaths, by the way, coming from the backyard of the wife and the man who won the first New York City Marathon. First Avenue in Manhattan on their way to the Bronx. Others are in front of them already in Central Park. They come in all shapes, sizes, and personal bests. Let's go back now to Central Park for...
Another Masters runner, Edilson Silva from Brazil. Number 46, Herder Vasquez.
The streets of New York. Yeah, there are still some slowpokes back in Brooklyn, and thankfully there are still people on the streets to help them and cheer for them. These folks are on First Avenue in Manhattan on their way to the Bronx. Others are in front of them already in Central Park. They come in all shapes, sizes, and personal bests. Let's go back now to...
E aí, Milton? Estamos aqui no Hilton, né? Com um grupinho curtindo essa pós-maratona. Vamos mostrar a medalha aqui que você conquistou. Conta aí, como é que foi a luta para conquistar essa medalha?
Realmente foi uma luta contra o frio. Nunca havia corrido em uma temperatura tão baixa e realmente prejudicou muito. A gente sentiu muito essa temperatura.
Deu para curtir a festa, pelo menos?
Deu. Uma festa muito bonita, a maratona excelente. Uma coisa realmente que vai ficar na memória da gente pelo resto da vida. Valeu a pena.
Recadinho pessoal de casa.
Eu queria mandar um abraço para
que você está chegando.
Minha esposa Esther, minhas filhas Elaine e Márcia. Um abração, um beijão para vocês. Estamos voltando aí amanhã, né? E logo estaremos juntos.
Ok. Meus parabéns de novo. Vamos mostrar a medalha outra vez. Parabéns pela conquista.
Muito sacrifício, mas valeu a pena.
É isso aí.
Obrigado.
Parabéns, tchau.